Okay, so we're going to continue the segment of asking and questions and answered by a corrections employee for the California Department of Corrections. Questions 21 through 30. Number 21. How do you control so many inmates at a time? Now, the bottom line is you have to accept that you can't. Most ratios is usually about 100 inmates to every one officer. So certainly if the inmates ever organized and coordinated, it would make our day very challenging. That being said, if you know that going into it, the California Department of Corrections has not lost a yard due to a riot in a long time. The last one was in Chino in 2007. Little homework, guys. Look up Chino State Prison 2007. There's probably videos of it on YouTube. Our response, we actually had our alarm response team from Mule Creek go down there. I was not a part of that, but that was a riot that occurred at a prison. We lost the yard. We had to call outside law enforcement in to bring it in, to put it back under control. They ended up burning the place down. They had to, rebuild and rehouse all those inmates that were living there. Prior to that, we haven't lost a yard due to riot, and I can't remember when. Certainly not since I started in corrections in 1999 with the California Department of Corrections. And the reason why that is because we do have procedures in place. We are safety first. Our classification system is set up in a way where we try to put in the same environment the same type of inmates. We have procedures set in place for progressive discipline. So between an inmate becoming general population or becoming sensitive needs yard or being assigned to a specific unit or housing unit because of their design, sometimes some of the buildings are designed a little bit differently so they can house a little bit more violent inmates, and then that's a step before ADSEG, segregated housing unit, and then condemned if it goes to that route. So there's certainly a lot of different housing units and classification systems set up to put the right inmate in the right place to prevent a mass riot like that. But those procedures are set up by our classification system. We have alarm response procedures set up. We have gunned towers within the institution. So there are certainly a lot of things that we do that can help prevent that from happening. The alarm response, we will respond to an incident in an organized and intentional fashion. We're not going to all just run in there from all different directions to kind of deal with 2 people fighting or even maybe 6 people fighting. We're going to approach the situation like a riot situation with the appropriate riot response gear, with appropriate alarm response tactics, utilizing departmentally approved techniques to help isolate the incident to just a certain location. And then we also have perimeter gun posts set up where we have 40 millimeter less than lethal use of force options and our Mini 14 223 deadly force option. Certainly all those things are in place. So if it were to go bad on a bad day, we're going to respond appropriately. The inmates know what our alarm response system is about. They know the weaknesses, but they also understand that it is a very good way to deal with it, to deal with any type of group violence as it comes up. We also have use of force options gas. We have OC pepper spray, CN, CS gas. When a riot erupts, 6, 8, 10 man riot, we can start throwing gas at the situation. That is really effective in a lot of ways to quell the incident. I've seen gassing inmates extremely effective. Of course, we have to follow up with protocols. If we have a riot and we respond with tactical precision, we deploy OC blast dispersion grenades or handheld OC instantaneous blast. We have to, after everything is quelled down, inmates are placed in handcuffs, we have to then go decontaminate them. We'll escort them to, we have showers on the facilities. It's basically a holding cell. It's just, we call it a holding cell because we are no longer allowed to say cages, but it basically looks like a cage with a shower into it. We put them in there. We'll keep them in cuffs, or we'll put them in there, lock the door, and there's a little handcuff port where he can stick just his hands out so we can uncuff him, lock that port again, and then he can decontaminate himself with the shower. They don't like that, especially when it's cold, from my experience. They don't like to be out there in a snowstorm under cold water just to get the OC out of their face and eyes. It's pretty effective. So there's certainly procedures in place to prevent mass disruption and mass violence. Number 22, how old is the oldest person in jail, and what do you do when they die? Well, it's same as outside population. We have some people that don't get put into prison until they're 75 years old. They didn't commit a crime until they're older, later in life. So they'll be put in at 75 and probably stay there until they die, and that could be at any age. So certainly the same representative of what it is in general population or society is the same representation inside of a prison. When they die, we will turn the body over to the family. We will contact that inmate's next of kin. We'll let them know where that inmate's body is, and they can choose to come pick up the body and proceed with funeral and end-of-life arrangements as they see fit. A lot of times we have inmates that have no next of kin or nobody that wants to come claim the body. So California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation will pay for the cremation of the body, and then the ashes are sent to San Quentin State Prison and spread out to sea at San Quentin, which is right next to San Francisco Bay. So after an inmate dies, we will send some of our investigative services unit staff to the body. The body will be fingerprinted and identified to confirm who this person is. We will update the system that he has completed his term, that he is basically out of our system, has been moved to a death status, confirm that that's the person that was incarcerated and for how long, and then he will be either cremated or released to the family. Number 23, why do gangs form? What do they get out of being in a gang? Very simple. Gangs, like street gangs, they create out of a need, sometimes within their own culture, with their own neighborhood, and within their own prison facility. It starts off for being protection. 2 or 3 guys get together and they say, we need to protect ourselves from these outside influences, whatever outside influences they are. Next thing you know, those gangs become larger and larger, and then they start running neighborhoods, geographic areas, and prison yards. When they start running the yards and they get that large, those type of gangs aspire to be in charge of drug trade, sex trade, any type of criminal activity. If drugs can get smuggled into the institution, the gang members would control that contraband and sell it, and a lot of times they'll fund outside criminal activity based on money that is made inside prison. So gangs form to start off as protection, but their ultimate goal is to facilitate and promote criminal activity. If you are a gang member, you are aspiring to be the top of the gang, a leader in the gang, what they call holding the keys. An inmate who holds the keys on any facility is an inmate associated with a certain